Welcome to today's adventure of Get Onto It. There's nothing like this anywhere, taking you from zero to hero. And now, here's your host, Don Williams.
From the Regis Suites in Phoenix, Arizona, you're listening to Breakthrough Thinking. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Dave Isaac, the host. And we have a debut show starting right here, right now, called Get Onto It, starring none other than Don Williams. Don, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you very much.
Wow, this is great. By the way, you have a great radio voice.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Where did you learn that?
I just woke up with it one day.
See, that's what I thought. And this is going to be a great show. Get onto it. And we're going to go through your story, but it's a show about how to improve people's lives and in so many ways, like financial and health and well-being. What other areas do you think this would definitely improve people's lives in?
Basically, anything that's personal, professional, social, anything financial. It opens up anybody who's open to being open.
Yeah, and that's the key, what you just said, open to being open. Because that is the theme of today's show, is what's called the third level of thinking. Because so many people, and we'll go over that in a bit, probably about 20 minutes from now. But so many people, and you see it too, Don, that they do it one way, and that's their world. They don't think outside the box. They don't think outside their self-imposed limitations. In fact, I wonder if they really are thinking at all.
Well, they're just not aware that there's another option.
Exactly.
And that's their life, and they have done it that way. And it's kind of like they're living in a dream world, but they don't recognize it. They're kind of in a fog, and it works for them.
Yeah.
So as long as something terrible doesn't happen to them, and even in those cases, sometimes that's not enough, they just continue doing it.
And sometimes, even if something terrible happens to them, they think it's normal, so it's like, okay, so this is life. But it doesn't have to be. I mean,
and they'll blame the outside world, and they don't recognize that they have a choice. They've always had a choice.
I totally agree. That's what's going to really make this show great. It's going to be, of course, the first Thursday of every month at 11 o'clock in the morning. So it's going to be a lot of fun for people to learn how to improve their lives in a very unique way. I mean, you and I, once people hear your story, between you and I, we have a unique blend of ways to help them. I do it through neurolinguistic programming, and you have you're going to hear Don's story in a second here.
More or less an organic set of experiences that have continued to build throughout my life that have really opened up my ability to notice some things far beyond what others see.
Yeah.
And I've been open to it, and the more that happens, things open up. That's why I call it I named the show Get Onto It.
Yeah, I love it.
In other words, to join me and get involved with what I do.
Get onto it.
And that's why I called their website getontoit.com. So.
Which is a great website. And yeah, you're going to learn a lot of good stuff. So if you really want to understand life, yourself, how it's an inside-outside game, this is a show you want to listen to. So let's go on to your story, because I think this is a starting point. This is your debut show. It's a starting point for people to get to know who you are and how you got to this point in your life to want to share such fascinating information, not just fascinating, but helpful information to help people get out of their own way, basically.
Yes, to help them have self-empowerment and a purpose that drives them beyond their current limitations.
So it all started when something, unfortunately, and maybe I could say unfortunately, but maybe it was a blessing in disguise.
Oh, it was a blessing in disguise, I'll tell you that.
No doubt. So go through what happened. You were a happy young kid at, 10 years old?
Yeah, 10 years old, and I wouldn't have ever thought anything of it. And here's the basic context of the situation. My younger brother and I are playing tag in the house. My older brother's watching us. And my mom and stepfather are away on vacation. And this was the first full day. We had school. We had grabbed something to eat, and now it was in the evening time. My older brother was talking on the phone, and I'm racing down the hallway, and I turned to the arm of a couch and did a somersault on it. Now, I'd done this before. I used it as like a springboard to put the couch in between me and my younger brother, and when I did this, I noticed something different. One, I couldn't feel the motion of the movement of the turn, and I felt the pillow on the back of my head, and I opened my eyes, and I was looking down. I thought, what's strange? And then I tried to feel or move my body, like get up from the couch, and I couldn't do that. I was like, whoa, what's going on? Am I dead? I mean, I'm really trying to figure out what's going on. And next thing I know, my younger brother's hit me over the head with a pillow.
Oh, jeez. And you couldn't defend yourself.
No, I had no idea what to do. And
were you like panicking at this point?
Well, I think the body goes into a normal shock.
Yeah, I think so.
I wasn't aware of it because I couldn't feel it. The only thing I knew was I was trying to speak, but I didn't have any strength behind my voice.
Oh.
And all I had was the vacuum in my lungs that happens naturally. So as I was breathing out, I was trying to squeak out, I can't move, I can't move.
Wow.
And, well, he couldn't hear me as he's hitting me over the head with a pillow. And what happened next even makes this is what makes this is the cherry on top of the story. And at the time, my younger brother doesn't know why he even did this.
How old was your younger?
He was, if I'm 10, he's 8.
Okay, 8.
He takes his sock off and shoves it in my mouth.
Oh, jeez. I've seen that in the movies.
Yeah, it's just like it's real life. It actually happened. And I was able to work it out with my tongue and finally get the idea out that I couldn't move. And I think because I had not moved during all of that, he really thought maybe there's something going on. So he runs and gets my older brother. My older brother picks up my leg.
Oh.
And it basically had nothing to it. He said at the time it was like I was almost dead, you know.
Wow.
And so he was spooked out. So he called the 911. They came in, threw me on a stretcher board, put the foam thing on my neck, and took me off to the hospital. And at that point, I felt pretty comfortable because actually one of the EMS guys was a father of one of the kids I knew from school, back from one of those days introduce your parents type things. So I was like, oh, okay, that made me feel pretty good for that journey.
Yeah.
And I get to the hospital, and they put me in a room, and all I see is this big bright light above me, and they just let me there. They leave me there.
That's it?
That's
for how
it.
long?
It was for like the whole night.
The whole night?
The whole night. They didn't do any x-rays. Now, this is where my mind started going like, wow, I'm already in this weird experience, and I'm expressing I can't move. I'm thinking, as a 10-year-old, even though I'm not like an adult, I have enough knowledge to think, something definitely happened to my neck, because my neck down can't move. That's the part you would look at. And there's nobody coming in, talking to me, taking examinations, no x-rays.
For the whole night?
For the whole night. And there's this one time a nurse came by, and I asked, I said, I'm really thirsty. Can I have something to drink? And she said, no, we don't know what caused this.
Wow.
I'm thinking, you're not doing anything to check it out. And I have sock mouth, and of course my mouth is really dry, right?
Oh, gee.
Yeah, so I mean...
It sounds funny, but at that time it was probably hugely scary.
Yeah, I felt really strange. And I couldn't really move or feel, right? That's the whole thing, paralyzed neck. But I did have this one experience, and I thought, after I had this experience, this must be a dream. And it felt like something on a Star Trek where I was phasing through the table. I would feel the table, and it would feel like I was going through it. And I'm like, I don't know, is this like, am I dying slowly or something? I don't know what's going on, or this is a crazy dream. So I just closed my eyes, and I think maybe my body, with everything going on, it was tired too. So it just naturally put me in a really deep sleep. I don't remember ever waking up until the next morning. And then when I woke up, they had either propped the back of the bed up or moved me to a different bed, and I was sitting in an upright position, and I still couldn't move or feel. And there was a woman coming in with breakfast or whatever. I'm like, oh, man, that juice looked really good, I'm telling you. And I asked her, I said, could you help me drink that juice? And I think basically because of her position, she just thought I couldn't reach it or something. And she brought it over by me. I was like, no, I can't hold it or I can't move. So she puts it in my hand, and it dumps all over my body, and she gets upset at me. I was like, wow, this is going to be tough because I've been telling adults I got a problem and no one's listening.
And you're only 10 years old.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
And then one of the doctor orderlies, I'm not exactly whose position was what this time, he comes in and he's all upset because I've wet the bed. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't even know I wet the bed.
Yeah, because you had no feeling.
I can't no feeling. I was like, this is new to me. So I'm like, wow, now I'm like a baby. This is kind of spooky. And I hear my dad's voice in the hallway. And I think it's the same guy that was giving me a hard time for peeing in the bed. He tells my dad, he's like, well, we think he's fine. He stunned himself while playing. It's a beautiful snowy day. It was early December at the time. He should go out and go sled riding. And I'm thinking to myself as I hear this from a distance, I am in trouble. The world that everybody had everything I'd ever knew was all up in the air.
So, in other words, doctors, the perception of doctors to help heal, parents to take care of you, the nurses. I mean, the whole medical system, they just said, "Oh, yeah, go out sledding." I mean, sort of sounds like the medical field. Times, not everyone, but
I look back at my experience as medieval medicine almost.
Wow.
And my concept of what a doctor or anybody with a title after that point was, wow, just because you have a title doesn't mean you know what you're supposed to know.
Yeah.
And these people apparently didn't. So my dad carried me off to the car, and I could tell he was confused because what he was told. And he brought me to my grandparents' house and put me on a bed, and I just laid there most of the day. Of course, peeing the bed here or there, whatever. And he was frustrated with that. And
but what did your dad say to you? Did he ask you, "Hey, can you move?" And
he asked me, and I said, no, I can't move. And he kind of looked at me kind of off. He's like, "Well, they tell me you're fine." Like, I can't move. That's my problem. And at least at this point, I never could take off my foam neck thing, and no one did. And I think this is what actually was my saving grace, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So for the majority of that next day, let's say he picked me up at around 5 or 6 in the morning, maybe 8, even at as late as 8. It wasn't until later that evening my mom and stepfather, who were away at Atlantic City, we lived in a suburb of Cleveland at the time.
So this was this
is my biological dad.
I got you.
And so I'm at grandparents there. It wasn't until later that afternoon or evening when they were coming home, and that whole day I just laying in that bed.
That must have been like torture.
Yeah, it is the strangest thing. You really get yourself a perspective on what's important and what really matters, and what is really real and what really isn't. So yeah, that really it was a very long day to me. I'll tell you that.
I can imagine.
And so he brought me to my natural house where I lived, and he was very happy to get rid of me. And I think of it,
who was
my dad.
I
think it was only because he didn't know what was going on, what he was told versus what was going on, and he didn't believe he had anything he could do about it. Right? And throughout the whole time, he wasn't listening. All he would have had to do was listen and actually acted on it.
Yeah.
So my mom came back, and thankfully she's a nurse.
Oh, interesting.
And she could tell something was up, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. And I told her, I'm really hungry. Can I have something to eat? And I can't eat. Can you help me? And so she was the first one that actually set me straight up in a chair. And I was in the kitchen table, sitting up, and this didn't happen immediately. And she was cooking or gathering or doing whatever in the kitchen for what she was going to make me, and asking me questions, what's been going on, because she's kind of confused because she was told I couldn't move, and she had to carry me in, and she's trying to assess things. And what happened next, I relate to something that might happen in welding. You have two dissimilar metals that all of a sudden they touch and you get sparking.
Yeah.
Well, enough with the gravity and me moving my head to face my mom and doing whatever, and all of a sudden whatever wasn't connected. And my body went from not being able to move or feel at all to having shooting pain running through my body, and I was flipping like a fish out of water.
Oh, wow.
And
what was that? Eventually, is your spine one of the vertebrae?
Yeah, it was whatever was disconnecting with the spinal cord was able to have some sort of a connection.
Oh, my goodness.
But I think of it as almost like a reboot type of thing. And so I'm in pain, and this is going on in these movements, going through my body, involuntary. And so my mom's having to hold me down on the table, call the ambulance.
Oh, man.
They get me into the ambulance, and now they want to do x-rays, right? Before they didn't do any x-rays. And now they're pissed at me because I can't stop moving.
Jeez. It didn't sound like a very compassionate doctor at
No,
that point.
I'm at this point where it's like, if it could happen, it did. And I just was
That's
out
amazing.
of my wits end.
Yeah.
And I just remember trying to close my eyes and calm down and doing whatever I could do mentally just to keep myself together. Obviously, physically, I was disconnected. So I figured, well, getting upset emotionally wasn't going to help me. So I went into anything and I wouldn't necessarily use the term logical, but I went to an outside reference to an inside reference. I wasn't allowing the outside world to dictate my experience because obviously it was failing me. So my mentality was, this is all going to take care of itself. I just have to be patient.
So what's interesting about this so far in the story is at 10 years old, you had the incredible insight to start to say, hey, the outside world's not helping me. I better go inward a bit because that's the only thing probably had control over.
And it's the only thing I had at the time.
Man. Now, this, of course, isn't a commentary of the whole medical system. Obviously, there's some good doctors, physicians. But you hear stories like this, and, this is the first one I've heard like this, but other horror stories, and it's sort of scary in a way, and it means it blends into our topic, the third level of thinking, which we'll explain.
Well, the explanation here actually comes up shortly after this. So they were finally able to strap me down or whatever it is they need to do, and I was able to relax myself kind of enough to not allow it to happen so badly that they can take the x-rays. And they couldn't find anything the matter. They put me in a CAT scan and all that. And they're confused. They put me off into a room, and I'm thinking maybe something good's going to come of this. And I remember the room I was in was really bright, and there was no one else in there. And I was propped up again like I was before, and I'm wondering what's going to happen. Well, what had happened was, and this is what my mom tells me after the fact, that they were talking to her that any interaction they were having with adults with regards to me was that they thought I was making this up.
Oh, wow.
They wanted to put me in a room with a camera because they couldn't figure it out.
Well, jeez. And this is a bizarre, I don't know, I've heard stories, but this might take the cake.
And thankfully, one of the doctors still questioned on my being actually having a problem. And his ego wasn't so big that he couldn't ask for help.
Good.
And there was a doctor who was known for figuring out tough cases. I'm not sure if he was giving some sort of presentation or just happened to be in the area. But somehow their paths crossed, and he said, I have this patient that everyone's thinking he's making it up. I'm kind of thinking this might be real, but I can't find it. So he took a look at the x-rays, and what he found shocked everybody. And it was that I broke the C1, which is right next to the brainstem.
Yeah.
So given what I was doing, there's no reason for why I would have a break that high up. Because that's almost in your skull.
That is amazing.
And the second part is if you break that bone, normally you die. That's where your involuntary organs, your lungs, your heart, all these things that just start to work on their own, that's where it's controlled by. And so since I was perfectly okay by their vision, they would never have looked there.
That is just an amazing story thus far. There's more to this. But if you take it up to this point, it just shows that at 10 years old you had something special in you, and there's a purpose that why you're still here, and you're fulfilling this purpose as we speak right now, and this is your life journey.
Right. And at the point of that happening, I would have never conceived that I would be here. Well, the first thing I was thinking of is, could I get up and ever move and draw like crayon or, do something simple that a 10-year-old enjoyed, right? Running around playing tag or something. So, yeah. And then once the doctor figured it out, they basically said, we're going to put you in for surgery because now we know what's the matter. And we're going to chip part of your left hip and we're going to fuse it to your bone with a wire, and we're going to put you in for surgery, and that's what we're going to do.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, this is good. At least they know it's the neck. They're going to do something to the neck. I'm feeling pretty good about that. And there was a little bit of a delay that took place between that period. And I had this other interesting experience where most people would have never thought about this. But I'm a 10-year-old, right? And when you're 10 years old, you're not necessarily always bathing yourself, right? And you need to let's go take a bath or something and stuff like that. And early in one morning, a nurse comes in, pulls the curtains, and starts undressing me. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here, It was like one of these things I didn't know. And to her, it was a normal, everyday thing, but it was like taking a bath with me, washing me down
the bed. A date or something.
Right. I was like, what's going on? That was totally a new experience for me that I could have experienced, right?
How did you handle that one?
Well, the other thing was, too, and this, I had never really been around a lot of Native Americans or South Africans or anything like that.
Right.
And this woman was a black woman, and it was just kind of like, wow, this is strange. I'm not a racist or anything, but it was just, and as a black woman, too, the way they are, they're very stern and direct. Yeah. And she's like, being very serious and proper with me to do this and telling me to do this or that, and I can't move. And it was really awkward, the whole experience. But it was like one of those things where, having humility and having no control over it, but also seeing that this was something that was good, but at the same time not normal for me. It was really
well, at 10. I mean, what do you, you can't anticipate, especially. I mean, who would have that?
Yeah.
I mean, not many people at 10 are in the hospital, and obviously there's certain things they got to do.
Yeah, and so I appreciate everybody, and I knew she was just doing her job, and she came to be a nurse that helped me out often, so it was a good experience. But that first type of thing, it was like she pulled the curtains and what's going on here, and so then eventually I go in for surgery, and they basically told me what was going to happen to a point.
Oh,
and I wake up. And they didn't tell me they were going to put pins in my head and I'd be in traction.
Oh.
Because I'm able to move and I'm able to feel for like the first time really. There was a period in between where when I woke up, it was kind of awkward to me because I'd been not moving for a while. And then I reached up and I'm like, what's this stuff on my head? And I feel these pins and I can't move my neck still. I'm like, well, did it work? But I didn't recognize, when you're in traction, it's all weighted down. You're not allowed to really move your neck much.
Right.
And I felt the hip issue where they had worked on that. But then I thought to myself, well, did you guys miss something or work on something else? They put a catheter in me. They never told me that. And that really shocked me.
Oh.
I'm thinking, whoa, did you guys work on something you weren't? I didn't know what was going on.
Man. Well, at 10, I mean.
Yeah, so that was a big experience.
You had a lifetime of experiences just in a few days.
Yeah, and, all things being equal, I recovered in less than 6 months.
That is a phenomenal thing. And by the way, if you want to see a picture, you have a picture of you at 10 with the traction on your actually, it's on our webpage,
yes.
breakradioshow.com. Go to Thursday shows, click on Get Onto It, and you'll see the whole story here, as well as some pictures before and after, I guess.
Yes.
But so the recovery, well, let's take a quick break now, and let's talk about the recovery when we come back, and then we'll get into how this applies to our topic, the third level of thinking, I should say. And, of course, this is the debut show starring Don Williams. Get Onto It. And that's getontoit.com. And we're talking about Don Williams' experience, most unusual experience. If you want to hear an archive of this show, go to breakradioshow.com under archives, and you can hear the whole thing again. We'll be right back. Strumming my six string on my... And welcome back again. You are listening to Breakthrough Thinking Live from the Regis Suites in Phoenix, Arizona. This is the debut show for Don Williams. Get Onto It. It's called GetOnToIt.com. And, of course, 2 is the number 2. Don't spell it out. GetOnToIt.com. And it's a story about Don Williams and, unfortunately, or a blessing in disguise, where he broke his neck and healed miraculously, actually. And that's where we left off, is your recovery. So go over some of just the highlights of that, and then we'll get into our topic.
So giving quick little detail, less than 6 months. So it happened in December, and I was back at home by mid-March, April, having some homeschooling. I was able to go back to school and finish out the school year. So after the surgery, I had several weeks where I was in traction, where I just couldn't really move. My stomach actually stopped working. They had to go through, a nurse came up to me, started jabbing a tube down my throat, gagging me, and that was a tough deal. And it really didn't explain it. Thankfully, my mom was coming at the same time that she was doing that, and she told the woman, "Here, tell him what's going on," and she helped me out. So there was this theme that was happening. I don't know whether it was the medical profession at the time, but they just couldn't explain what was going on. And so many people, I think, benefit from just recognizing what's going on. People don't preface the experience that they're going to give or provide somebody by just, they have this assumption they know, so everyone else knows. That was one thing that took place. And then, of course, having to relearn how to walk right. There was a time where there was probably like 100 needles I had to move with my fingers. And I probably have better dexterity now than I ever would have, or anybody has, because you don't practice that. So just like those types of things that I went through an experience that it was just shocking what I could do that I never even was put to do before. So I actually learned out a lot more about myself, about my body and things related to that, which has really impacted my ability to do things over my life. So after I recovered, I just went into the blend of the normal thing. Family sort of allowed for myself to get back into things, and it took on a normal situation. When I say I recovered in less than 6 months, there was one thing that was a little off, and it was the bottom of my feet. I had a little bit of difficulty feeling hot and cold for some reason for a while. And the front of my chest had the same issue. And I think it was the armature that they had me in once I was out of traction, that little robotic suit type thing. There was a foam, sort of like a woolly piece there, and my chest really couldn't feel too good then. But outside of that eventually came within, several months. That took care of itself.
So you completely recovered?
Completely recovered. I just couldn't play contact sports. And when I exercised or did anything with regards to physical activity, it was always me against me. I didn't really want to compete against anybody else because that had sort of dropped out as an interest. Previous to that, when I was younger, my older brother was training me to be like a sports athlete, running me in the snow and everything. I was playing football with his friends, and they were 7 years older than me. So I was a tough kid, and I made this transition. And I went through high school and did the normal thing there, and got a degree in mechanical engineering and went out and started working. And, of course, there's a lot of other stories that I can tell with regards to my life where I've gained lessons that apply to this. But, in the nutshell, I get this degree in mechanical engineering, and I get out and start working, and I get in this rotation where I'm the last in, first out. And I'm intimidating my bosses because I'm doing some stuff that's slightly different than what I was kind of taught to everyone else. They think in squares, I think in circles. I'm the go-to guy within 3 to 6 months. I can get my job done in 40 because I made that my job to myself to get it done in 40. And they're needing to do 50, 60 hours worth of work. And they ticked off their customers at some points, and I could talk to them in a half hour, and they could be my best friends. And so that kind of came up, and I worked as a lot of different positions because I kept on getting rotated out of these positions, getting laid off whenever that position situation economically would come up. They'd say, "Oh, we'll just get rid of you because we don't understand you. We don't want to ask." And it was an easy situation for them to make that decision. So what what was awesome for me is I got into all kinds of different fields. I was in testing, I was in quality, I was in welding, I was in the things involved with making steel. And so I had this wide range with regards to design, and I'd be in the manufacturing and the implementation, working with customers overseas. The last company I worked with, they made industrial-sized boilers that were in the power industry, and we made them and shipped them all over the world. I was in charge of project quality. And what tipped me over the edge is there was a problem with another project, and a man who was similar to my position basically threw his arms up and said, I'm not going to handle this. But he had been there for so long, they weren't going to fire him. And they asked me to go in, and there was a situation that they were going to run into $1 million in liquidated damages if this wasn't corrected.
Oh.
Because it was a $30 to $50 million project that we were working on. And they sent me in there. I had some kind of squabbles with both sides and got things straightened out. And by the end of the project, that was all resolved. President of the company patted me on the back as around Christmas time. Then 3 weeks later, they laid me off again. I said, well, that's the end of it. I'm going to use my knowledge to help people who want to be helped, and I will profit by helping others.
See, that's excellent, because everyone should live their purpose and live their passion. And the key is most people don't know what it is. Now, you evolved into it, and all these life experiences since day one, and especially the experience with your tenure when you're 10 years old, helped sort of form your way to today. And that's usually the case with everyone, whatever their experiences are. But you're blessed that you found what your passion is. Tell us just sort of briefly, what are some of the keys that led you here? I mean, what did you learn from your whole medical experience? Just one or two things that you realized that, hey, you do see things differently. And what comes to mind is that I'm thinking you're thinking life is precious.
Well, it's precious, and at any one instant,
fragile.
Anything could happen to you. And I started looking at fear in a totally different way. I started recognizing, why is it that when I had this experience, I wasn't held in fear? I was content with being where things were, because I wasn't screaming or yelling or putting on a fit or anything. I was really calm and collected by this. And a couple of instances that I had later in life where I was riding my bike and my bike got bent in half and the woman rolled over my feet. And I watched it happen, and I just stayed calm and collected. I was like, it's all going to take care of itself. And I walked away from that.
Is this after?
This was after, when I was about 17 years old. And so I've had these experiences where I've known that, we kind of make things too complicated.
That's true.
And that we're in too much of a rush, and the rush is actually what causes most of our damage.
Yeah.
And we think at times we know what's going on. Well, obviously, people were pushing that view on me, and they didn't know what they didn't know because they didn't go investigate. So for me, I see the value in investigating things I don't know the 100% truth on. I don't allow my thoughts to dictate whether something's possible or not. I check it out.
See, that's the openness you have, and that's pretty cool. The other thing I'm observing is not only the openness, which really is, we're going to examine that a little bit more right now, but you seem to embrace the present moment. When you were in this medical condition in the hospital, because you said you weren't panicking, you were just observing. So you're sort of a quiet observer, recognizing the present moment, the power of the presence. There's a book called The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, that's really good because the power is in the present moment. Mm-hmm. And if you freaked out, who knows, it may not have led to healing, right?
And what I'll tell people is there's something much greater there. And there are 5 laws that I've discovered, and I've broken it down to its bare most minimum to start people off with on my website. And choice is the first one. I could have had other different choices to make. I could have really gotten upset and out of sorts with things, but I decided to handle things in a way that would suit me best. And then when you talk about the way I observe things, I was perceptive. And perception is the next one. How you decide to view one moment really impacts how you experience it. And
Totally true.
And then the third one is awareness. Your ability to understand yourself with regards to other people in any one moment helps. So I largely just let my understanding say, well, these people don't know what they don't know about me because for whatever reason, that's not their focus. And I've got to let them be that way because if I don't, I'm going to get upset about something I have no control over. And then the fourth one was purpose. And that is allowing yourself to kind of find whatever your purpose in the moment is because it changes. And for me, I wasn't playing the purpose of a victim. I was playing the purpose of someone who was injured. Now, as my mom being a nurse, and she was brought up in that, she would make references to, oh, you were so sick, you're so ill. And I'm thinking intellectually, that's the wrong definition to use. I was injured. I was recovering from an injury.
Right.
And her training had still placed it into this idea that I was somehow sick and ill.
And you had to recover based on their expectations, not yours.
Correct. So even in my household, that and the fifth one is application. If you can't put together what you've learned and apply it, you're not really going anywhere.
That's true. In business, as you know, I'm a CPA and a business consultant as well, with neurolinguistic programming. Implementation is sort of the same thing. Can you apply it? Can you implement it? And so many people, I tell you, they do strategic planning, they'll do business plans, and the thing they don't do is apply it or implement it.
Yes.
What good is it?
You not following through with what you know is the worst thing you can do because you hold yourself back and you are the only one that know it.
And the tragedy here, if you think about it, is maybe we are here, maybe all of our purposes here to explore and manifest and become our greatest gifts and talent for the purpose of what? Sharing. Sharing is implementation too, isn't it?
Yes.
So, it's an unfortunate situation.
And it's sort of like our ability to serve others is held back based off of not willing to share what we can.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And, and it relates beautifully to the three levels of thinking, which are the following. I know what I know. I know my name is Dave, and most people play in the third level of thinking. They're just sort of narrow-minded. They just don't see outside the box, or they don't see anything except what's in front of them, and often they bump into that as well. The second level, I know what I don't know. So like an engine, I have an engine in my car. If it doesn't work, I know what I don't know. So in other words, I know it doesn't work. I don't know how to fix it, but I can bring it to someone that does know. And people play in that level of thinking. But where most people do not play, and they should be playing every single day, is the third level of thinking. I know that I don't know what I don't know. And that is simply, you just don't have a clue. But if you're open, completely open to things, guess what? You'll find out what it is, because that's how it works.
And to me, the I don't know what you don't know comes down to two things. What is your willingness for change? And what are you willing to let go and give up? And I think of it sort of like a 10-point scale on each, right? If you have a willingness to change, maybe about 20 or 30%, so let's give that 2 or 3, and you have a willingness to let go or give up and say, that's 10. Well, that's only 20% to 30% overall. And even if someone says, well, I have like a 7 level willing to change and a 7 level willing to let go or give up, that's only 49. That's 49% of 100%. That's still less than 50%. So you really have to want to change, and you really have to want to let go or give up.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Letting go, it's interesting. I remember the first time someone told me that letting go or surrender. And that just really sort of ticked me off. That was before I was I was playing probably in the second level. I'm not sure how awareness I had, but I just immediately took defense of stand to that. They go, just surrender. I go, surrender? But I'm here trying to build something. I was building my CPA firm in Century City. And why would I surrender? Why would I surrender to, and to me it meant give up. But it didn't. I discovered later, and not that long later, that surrender is to really surrender to your greatest potential.
Yes, and what's probably one of the largest challenges that are in society is like when we're put into school, especially, that we have this need to be right because we have to give the right answer. And that's actually the largest challenge we have, because it's relating to that surrender, is it's okay to be wrong. It's actually okay to not know.
Yeah.
And to seek not knowing and to admit not knowing is actually a greater strength.
You know, and what's funny that comes to mind after, of course, your medical story, is that often what appeared right 30 years ago, even in the medical profession, now they go, uh-oh, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. Yeah. So what really is right?
Correct.
And there's only one thing, is that which never changes. And some people would call that God or the universe. It doesn't change. But other things constantly change. So it could be right one decade, wrong the next. Is that really right?
Well, the willingness to change actually means you're keeping up with pace in your life. If you don't, you're actually falling backwards. You're not going anywhere.
It really is amazing. And awareness will take care of that. And I love your 5 things that you really became aware of. Choice is so critical, and most people don't think they have choice. You can see in their language patterns, you can see in their behavior. They think it's just like, whoops, okay, well, I don't have choice, I'm the victim today.
Even not making a choice is a choice.
Yeah, well, that's true too. That's a good point. And that's actually a very good point, is you can defer a decision, and that's a choice, rather than be indecisive, which is different.
Yes.
The perception is a very good concept. Again, is they say reality is perception, and so you change your perception, you change your reality.
It's all on how you define what your experience is, and you control the definition.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And awareness. I don't think many people can argue with awareness. Some people have it, some people don't, most people don't. But you can develop it, though, right?
It takes a little bit of a desire. And you must want to connect with people. And you must want to be more than what you are. It's kind of a slightly off concept, but it just means you want to extend yourself and be aware of what's going on.
Absolutely. And purpose is always huge. That's mainstream, no doubt. I remember Warren, I can't remember. He was actually a minister. Purposeful Driven Life, I believe, a best-selling book. Is actually, religious book, but the concept was good. What is your purpose? Why are you here? People should be asking that question, and many people sacrifice the truth, meaning, what do you get paid to do so you don't live out your dreams? Most people have a job. Now, you had a job, right? And now you're moving into your purpose.
Right. Well, the other part of it is I think I complicated my life. And purpose doesn't need to be complicated either. It's actually, what is the best thing I can do at this moment?
Yeah. That's right.
That's going to meet with what I'm trying to accomplish and aid other people in uplifting them at the same time. If that's our goal, then everyone moves ahead.
And that's a key word. There's a key word here. I wish we had a full audience here today. We will in other broadcasts, but the key word was uplifting. Mm-hmm. Uplifting other people. And you just imagine how the world would be different if everyone actually uplifted everyone they knew every day. Well, it'd be outrageous.
Yeah, one of the things I suggest to people is to try to make someone's day.
That's
it's very easy to do.
I knew someone, I won't mention any.
So I actually got to correct Dave. We do have a full audience here.
Oh, we do have a full audience.
Absolutely.
Oh, there they are. Okay.
Yeah, come on, guys.
I'm
keep
sitting
going.
to the back. I got to turn my chair around. What's interesting is, here's an example. I won't mention names because, I just won't mention names. But I knew someone that every day she would send out sort of a very positive thought to, I think, 600 people.
Wow.
It was in an organization. Positive thought to start the day. You figure, who would ever complain about a positive thought that you have choice to read it or not, and then you filter it through your perception, and usually positive thoughts are hard to mess up unless you have some type of filter that only sees the negativity of the world. So everyone loved this. And then one day she got a complaint from someone she barely knows saying, you send out too many of these things. And it's like, she was like, so she stopped, and she did it
one
once.
person stop him.
Well, then, because it was a business, and she thought it came from management, which it didn't, and she did it once a week rather than every day, and then the vast majority said, where are they? So, it's interesting, and the example means that one person could opt out, could choose to delete it, but instead chose to have a negative comment like you send too much positive vibes out.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Some people make it their day and make it their way to look to be offended or bothered. It's just their condition. And they don't realize it. It's a lot of that level one thinking we were talking about. You're kind of in this daze, you're kind of in this trance, and you don't really recognize these habits that you have and how they affect other people. And that's why if you can make someone's day every day, you'll notice someone who's kind of off in their world, and all you have to do is just mention something about what they're wearing or joke with them. They look like they're having too good of a time, even if they're like positive, and they'll like shake them out of it. And they'll be like, wow, someone noticed me. And that really makes a difference.
It really does. And you know what? There was a very well-known gentleman who wrote a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie.
Yes.
That said this 50, 60, 70 years ago. And it's not manipulation at all. It was simply sincere compliments. That's the book, the theme of the book. How to Win Friends and Influence People was simply just don't say things that aren't true, but really keep your eyes open, notice things that are really you could grab onto, and it's a sincere compliment.
And when I mean that make someone's day and make a comment, it's you say it, you get their acknowledgement, but then walk away. You're not trying to get anything from it.
Exactly. Unconditional.
Yes.
Which is a whole nother topic in itself. So in any way, the 3 levels of thinking, again, I know what I know. So examine that in your life. Are you just playing at that level? You just know what you know, do the same thing over and over again, as Albert Einstein said, and that's called insanity if you expect different results. So don't do the same thing over and over expecting different results. Try something new.
So when you go talking about the concept of business and people doing networking, if their modality is to go in to get something for themselves, then they're totally not being there for the right reason.
Exactly.
And they don't know what they don't know because they never take a second to listen to somebody that they can make a connection with.
No question about it. Of course, the best networkers, best salespeople always say that it's not about, selling to someone that does not need it. Mm-hmm. It's always about giving them choice and asking exactly what your needs are and how can I help you
meet those needs.
And if I can't, here's someone that can.
It's all about sharing.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And then the second level, I know what I don't know. So a lot of people play there, but again, just don't play there. Use new concepts, implement them. But it all boils down internally, motivation, self-motivation, belief systems, what you believe you deserve, what you believe you're capable of. And then the third level always, I know that I don't know what I don't know. And make sure you have a curious mind and you hang around people that can uplift that and double that and triple that, quadruple that, so they can give you some things you never thought were possible. I mean, how did Einstein think of the theory of relativity or the speed of light? I mean, or what was his famous mass E equals mc squared or something?
Yes.
I mean, I can't. I mean, there's a third level of thinking. I'm still trying to think of that. I have no idea how anyone could have thought of that.
Yeah, or Thomas Edison, he said, wow, I didn't find 1,000 ways that I failed. I found 1,000 ways that didn't work when creating the light bulb. It was just the choice and the way he decided to look at it. If he would have looked at it a different way, we may not have had the light bulb we have today.
And the computer I'm looking at would not be lit up.
Yes.
That would be craziness. But he also said our greatest weakness lies in giving up. And that's what you're saying. The most certain ways to succeed is always to try just one more time. These are great success quotes. Some of the things that we talked about, Albert Einstein, it's hard to deny how brilliant he was. And there's no doubt, I haven't heard anyone said he wasn't brilliant.
And he wasn't afraid to stand out. That's the biggest thing.
Exactly, against all odds. And again, he came up with the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So really look to change your old behavior patterns that have not worked into empowering new behavior patterns that lead you to your dreams. Start to examine that. Get a coach.
So if you want change in your life, you have to change.
There is no doubt about it. And a lot of people want the outside to change because they think it's easier. It's not easier. The outside's never going to change. Someone told me once, it's not about hoping for no more storms in life. It's about building a stronger ship.
Well,
think about that,
yeah,
right?
It's about what you can bring to it.
Yeah, but if you can build a stronger ship, meaning yourself, then whatever happens out here, you can handle it. It's the weakness of people that try to handle the storms of life, but they're not strong enough. And there are ways to become stronger.
One of the ways to become stronger is to stop putting so much emphasis on the outside and start figuring out what you can do internally. Figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. If you understand your strengths and you understand your weaknesses, then you can work on your weaknesses and make them strong. And often what is our strong point compared to our weak point, when we work on our weak point, we work on it so much, it becomes stronger than our strength.
Yeah, that's a good, nice analogy. And that really coincides nicely with Einstein's other quote, we cannot solve problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So you need, third level of thinking. You need other type of thinking patterns above your self-imposed limitations. Jump up a level to solve very, difficult or easy problems, whatever the case might be in life. And here's one of my favorite ones. I love this one. I think you're going to get a kick out of it. The difference between stupidity and genius is that genius has its limits.
Yes.
I mean, that's just hysterical to me. At least a genius knows the limits, but stupidity, they don't know, so they keep doing it over and over.
Yeah, because intelligence says, there's a point that I don't know something here.
Yeah.
What is it that I don't know? I am kind of dumb to knowing everything, and I'm willing to learn.
It's hysterical. And, of course, that's Albert Einstein again. And here's they're all significant, but I really also like this one as well. Try not to become a man of success, but rather a man of value.
Of value. And bringing value is all what we were talking about. It's how you serve people, and people don't understand that when it comes in terms of money, it's all about the value. It's about the value you bring to the experience. It's about the value you bring out of somebody else, that they want to connect with you. And the way that they see you is how they feel. And if you can bring them that value whenever you're around, then you're recognized.
Yeah, and most people should have some type of success plan or value plan, I should call it, where they can examine and change their limited beliefs, maybe add new skill sets. People rely on the same skill sets. That's like relying on a computer 12 years ago. Even computers have, 5.1 update, and then you update the software the next year. But who's updating their own brain software or their own inner being software? No one.
Yeah,
well,
people keep on running the same old programs, and then they wonder why they're in the same old places. And you change the environment, that really doesn't change, because if your thinking is the same, you're bringing the same experience to a different environment, so it doesn't change anything at all.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it. And so there's so many things, simple things people can do, and the things we're going to recommend is remember the 5 things of awareness, or what you learned is choice. You have a choice. Your perception can change. It's not it's not really the actual event that creates one state of mind. It's the interpretation of that event that creates a state of mind of people.
And when we talk about awareness with regards to perception, if we're aware that we're imprinting our beliefs on whatever we're experiencing, then we can understand that we could be holding ourselves back.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And can you believe we're at the end of the show right now? So contact information, Donald. How do they get to you? Website, phone number.
Website, getontoit.com, GETON, 2IT.com.
Excellent.
Phone number 216-496-9494. That's 216-496-9494.
And this has been a great debut show with GetOntoIt.com, we'll say, because it could be that's your website, but Get Onto It is the name of the show. And that's so important that people get onto it already. And we're going to leave you with one quote that we'll explain next week. When you are courting a nice girl, an hour seems like a second. When you sit on a red-hot cinder, a second seems like an hour. That's Relativity by Einstein. We will explain that. That's a good one. Think about that for a month. We'll be on again every first Thursday at 11 o'clock. See you then. Thank you, Don Williams.
Have a great day.
We chased our pleasures here.
Thank you for listening to today's show and being involved with Get Onto It. To learn more about Don Williams and all of his training programs and coaching, visit us today at getontoit.com. That's GETON, the number 2, IT.com.